Huntley again, Robert Road. I guess it looks to me like we have short-term, mid-term, and long-term. Short-term, I'd like to know if we have, there are 4 potential residences here that could be rented, is that correct? There were 3 or 4?
3.
There were 4.
Well, the 4th is uninhabitable.
Uninhabitable. Are those current leaseholders under, do they have leases? Is
Yes.
it right?
Yes.
And do they pay their utilities?
I believe so. I'm not familiar with the, yes, they do, thank you.
So those measurements of the monthly expenses don't reflect, you haven't gone through a winter here yet.
We did in
Just as
this
a-
house, the bills in this house were.
Right, so to me, it seems that we have to talk about, and I understand there's issues of underground storage tanks, correct?
Yes,
So that, how many are there?
We're not sure.
I don't know the exact number.
So that's kind of the Pandora's box. Would you say that's the biggest liability that you're looking at? Because you really don't know what happens once you get in there?
If I may, Mayor,
Sure.
through you. We have separate little hoppers, if you will, of expenses that we know we're going to incur. The one regarding environmental issues is the least well-defined at this point, because something like underground storage tanks, you never know until you actually start opening them up and remove them and then test the soils around. You just don't know how deep is. The other ones, for example, are some of the expenses that have been deferred for years. We know what those costs were a number of years ago. We don't know what's happened to those costs in the interim, and we don't know what additional costs have come on. So we have to get all those pictures put together, and that's why I was talking about the scorecard. Start with the debt service and work it forward from that, so that the community as a whole has an opportunity to see what the expense factor is, and that will help the community, I think, come to its own conclusion regarding, gee, is this doable, is it not doable, is it not a good idea for the township?
So I'm just wondering, in terms of, there seems to be no consensus about what the long-term future of this place should be. Just judging from this room, it seems the community is still sharply divided. And when I just anecdotally talk to people, some people feel like it just happened, the purchase happened and it was done. And I know you guys weren't part of that regime that did that. So there's this, I think, a residual resentment that people have because it felt like they kind of get mugged with a $4 million expenditure. And so I'm just wondering if going forward, if this committee that you pulled together for findings, will it be looking at different potentialities in terms of the financial aspect to make it self-sustaining or to reduce the township's liability? I mean, what will that committee be doing?
Well, I think with every answer, we're going to get even more questions. And that's going to be really up to the committee. We clearly need, it's been hanging around for so long. We need to make a decision. We own it. It's time for us to make a decision. So the Finance Committee is going to look at all the different options. Some of the options from one of the earlier reports is some simple uses for the property which could help maintain the property and help pay its expenses. The good part about that $4 million price tag is it all didn't come out of the taxpayer's pocket, which is the good part. It's unfortunate some of it had to, but it's not as bleak as it looks. So, but with the due diligence and the exploration that the Finance Committee is going to do, that will give us a lot of answers and will really help us decide in which direction we can afford to go in. You know, we have our wants, our wishes, and we have our needs. So it'll give us a lot of answers.
And is there, in terms of the encumbrances, are you limited in subdividing off and selling? I mean, what is this transaction with the Green Acres? What are you permitted to do? How much flexibility do you have?
Actually, Mayor, my suggestion to the group was going to be that we in fact retain a Green Acres expert. In fact, that might be similar to the preservation specialist the other gentleman spoke about, just simply to advise us and give us an answer to that gentleman's question. What are our options under the encumbrances?
Well, part of that question is actually answered in, it's addressed a little bit in the 2011 report. So that being said, it does, in a part of the 2011 report, it does make reference to the possibility of a subdivision with an easement going down the current driveway. You know, so I mean, there are options. It doesn't have to be the answer. It's carved out, so the open space, the green acres, it's there, it's not going anywhere. The only piece in question, as you know, with the report and the study and the reason why we're here, is kind of this chunk of land right here with the house and the barn and the other houses and the corn crib and that kind of fun stuff, so. Anyone else?